It was not only former President George Bush's visit on 9/11 that forever connected Sarasota County with that fateful day, but two of the pilot terrorists trained at a flight school here in Venice before boarding airliners on September 11, 2001. Tonight we continue our series remembering 9/11 10 years later by hearing from the man who owned that flight school. SNN Local News 6 reporter Grant Boxleitner has more.
In 2001, Rudy Dekkers owned Huffman Aviation, a flight school at Venice Municipal Airport. He still remembers the first time 9/11 terrorists Mohammed Atta and Marwan al-Shihi inquired about flying planes there.
I showed them around, I showed them our maintenance facility, all the airplanes we had, and they were pretty impressed by all the equipment we had, and came back 3 days later, decided to fly with us.
Dekkers did not know it at the time, but his facility would be training two men who seized control of airliners used to attack America on 9/11.
They both were mediocre students. They passed their tests with the FAA. We brought them up to SPIF for the licenses, and the FAA, the government, issued the licenses. So there was nothing up till now, indeed till now, 10 years later, that we thought they were terrorists or nothing, no suspicions whatsoever.
And Dekkers recalls conversations he had with Atta, believed to be al-Qaeda's ringleader on September 11, 2001.
We didn't like him. He was, for us, dead man walking. His face was expressionless. We didn't like him. Al-Shihi was a likable young guy. And I asked Atta many times, you know, what are you going to do in this age? You mean, you're 33 years old? Well, I got a job lined up.
Just hours after the attacks, Dekkers learned the truth about former students Atta and al-Shihi.
I was experiencing that day like you and all the other Americans. We had tears in our eyes. We couldn't believe that it would be done by captains. Next morning, 5:30, I had a phone call from the FBI, and then I started putting pieces together, and I guess I was involved in the biggest tragedy this century in America. They found out that in their house, in their apartment where they were, they had flight simulator, and they taught themselves. They learned how to use flight simulator. They learned how to switch off the autopilot. So all that knowledge together, they could steer left and right in a Boeing.
Since the attacks, Dekkers says his name has been tarnished. He recently released his book, Guilty by Association, writing about his experiences before and after 9/11. He says the government and unfounded stories about him on the internet have cost him his reputation, his business, and plenty of money.
Some departments in the government really took me as a scapegoat. I mean, FAA was never cooperative anymore. The DOT, Department of Transportation in Washington, told my attorney, John Gillick, if Rudy does not resign from his airline, we'll cancel his flight ticket. I mean, they don't put it on paper, they just said it.
Huffman Aviation stood on this site and closed its doors for good in 2002. Today, the building has since been remodeled and is the home of the Suncoast Air Center. Dekkers is out of the aviation business, now living in Cape Coral, but he's still fighting to set the record straight about inaccuracies he says are still swirling in cyberspace.
Like I'm a CIA agent, I'm an FBI agent, or I'm extradited by the INS. I mean, you can see, if you read it with some intelligence, that those are nonsense stories.
He hopes the book will help that cause, but a lingering question still puzzles him 10 years later.
Why get a license? It's not a license to kill, it's a license to fly. I don't understand that. Maybe he was pissed off, and I'm talking about Atta. I set him straight, and this guy was arrogant.
Reporting in Venice, Grant Boxleitner, SNN Local News 6.
After it was revealed that the terrorists trained in Venice, several people reported seeing them at various locations along the Suncoast during their stay. Rudy Dekkers' book is available at several locations, including Amazon.